I am going to beat you into the living death.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Walkout Network. It's your man Ant Walker here with the latest edition of the Living Death Show. Happy as always to sit down with two of my favorite guys to talk about some mixed martial arts. Of course, due to the magic, or I should say the treachery of Skype, we're not able to arrange the squares the way we normally would. So forgive me for introducing things out of order according to your appearance here. But anyway, let's go ahead. And first up is the jack of all trades who has mastered them all, the senior editor of Sherdog.com, and my man, Ben Duffy. What's up, Ben?
I'm doing well. We're just coming off the tail end of what, at least for me, was an exhausting and extremely full week in mixed martial arts. Jay would probably have even more to say about that than me, but it's over. Some interesting things happened, and I can't think of two better people to talk about it with.
Absolutely. And of course, let's go ahead and introduce the overworked man, the man who is exhausted, tired, and on the border of being burnt out. He is the man with the stats, the facts, the figures, and the numbers who anchors the panel every week, the associate editor of Sherdog.com, also my good friend, Jay Petrie. What's up, Jay?
Oh, I don't know. I'm feeling energized. I'm feeling rocking, ready to go. That this was in no way, shape, or form an agonizing week of fights with double headers and PFL on Wednesday and KSW going and 14 hours of live fight coverage on Saturday consecutively from KSW right to the boxing match, right to UFC to Bellator. It was no big deal, and we're gonna cruise through to laugh about it. No, it was exhausting, but I said this, I think, earlier to you guys that I'm really happy to be able to talk about it with you because I can laugh about it and kind of relax and let my hair down, shut up, and go with it. So I guess my stat of the week, it's not the sexiest of stats of the week, but it's one that's near and dear to our heart because by hook or by crook, friend of the show, Mike Jackson, won his fight against Dean Barry. We'll discuss this later. And he did so as a plus 550 betting underdog, which is the biggest upset. Hey, man, you can win by TKO. You can win by submission. You can win by DQ. It is literally on the same line, TKO, DKO, DQ in many books. Plus 550, the biggest upset this year and the biggest since Juliana Pena beat Amanda Nunes. So 550 for Mike Jackson. I hope he's doing all right.
He appears to be doing all right, and I don't normally speak openly of my very limited MMA investment ventures, but I did all right by Mike Jackson. I did put my money where my mouth was, and I also put a trivial amount that I wouldn't miss on the Mike Jackson Ike Villanueva parlay. So after Jackson won and Ike had Tyson Pedro in some trouble in the first round, and I was about to cash on like plus 4,800.
Oh, God. Ike owes you a beer, man.
Oh, okay.
Somebody owes somebody a beer. I don't know.
Like that trivial amount almost turned into like
$1,000. Oh man, that has to hurt. All right. Well, before we jump too far off the rails here, remember to like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend, tell that friend to tell 10 more friends. Let's get started, fellas. So first up, we're gonna do things a little bit differently. Normally the UFC is the marquee show of the week, but this time we're gonna give Bellator first dibs to get our thoughts. Cris Cyborg, she annihilated Arlene Blencowe over the course of 5 rounds. Her contract looks like is up at Bellator now. At least that's what the talk is, or it's nearing completion. But what do you think is the next best move for
her? Go to PFL and have it out with Kayla Harrison, or stick around Bellator and just keep doing what she's doing. The cool thing about Cris Cyborg is, I mean, she's always just been kind of very honest, open, heart on her sleeve about stuff. Obviously, her history with the UFC and with kind of her treatment at the hands of UFC president Dana White in particular, she's always been open about it. She's like, yeah, it was mean. It hurt my feelings. And they let her go, kind of the first chance, first excuse they had. But even talking about the UFC now, she's like, I would be open to going back, but they don't really have much for me to do. It's kind of a sensible and business-like approach. Like, what would she possibly do there? The UFC featherweight division is on absolute life support. There are maybe 2 or 3 actual featherweight women over there, meaning women who can't make bantamweight, if that. Like, the UFC doesn't even have the best division in that weight class. Hell, she could go to whatever promotion Sarah Kaufman beat up Jesse Mealy at, and that's as good as the UFC's featherweight division right now. Like, I would say just stick at Bellator.
You agree with that, Jay?
In one small regard, I feel for the UFC, and here's why. When that season of Tough happened, 28 or 29, I can't keep track. I think it was 28. They had heavyweights, and they introduced the world to the wonderful crochet boss Maurice Green, and women's featherweights. They pulled an entire crop of women that weren't awful at 145. In other words, weren't blown up straw weights or something nonsensical like that. Like Marina Marias, who is over in PFL, who was a flyweight that decided, I'm going to fight at lightweight here because that makes all the sense in the world. And then every single one of the fighters either left the promotion or dropped down to 135. Now, I understand that a lot of fighters go to Tough, a weight class above their normal weight class because of the frequent weight cuts over the course of like 6 to 8 weeks for the taping. But that could have actually had something here. I believe Cris Cyborg has the champions class in Bellator, so I don't think she's going anywhere. I think that as long as she has the belt, I think she's sticking around to smash or smesh or smosh or whatever the hell the word is, everybody else that comes her way. And there is one person still left to fight on the top 10. I had to look through Bellator's top 10 rankings list for featherweight, and Kat Zingano, who was supposed to fight Pam Sorensen and pulled out due to injury. Well, Kat Zingano's on a 2-fight win streak. That's what it takes. That's literally what it took for Arlene Blencowe to get a shot at Cyborg after losing a year and a half ago by submission, which happened to be Cyborg's first submission win. So she'll stick around in Bellator, cashing checks and snapping necks. And I give Blencowe some props. She fought, God, this sounds so dumb to say because she lost a 49-45 that only was the 49 because Cyborg lost the point for an illegal knee. But she fought the kind of fight you're supposed to fight with Cyborg if you hope to have a shot against her. She took it to her. She rang Cyborg's bell a couple. I think it was like in the 4th round where Blencowe had an overhand right that stung Cyborg, and she had to shake it out and then did the maniacal, evil Robbie Lawler laugh like that. That didn't hurt me. I'm enjoying this, but that did hurt. And if she's got the best chance to beat her, well, then we're all screwed here. But Cyborg, she can run the Bellator featherweight division for all we need, and hope that Don Davis and PFL stops just tweeting at Coker and actually makes a fight with Harrison, because I wouldn't hate a Bellator PFL co-promoted event. LF Legacy Fighting Championship and RFA, before they merged to LFA, made a co-promoted event where they actually introduced I think it was like the Access TV title that was specifically awarded to the winner of the RFA and LFC champion when they fought each other at the end. And it was like, I think it was a Damasio Page fight, and it was awesome. And it actually made it so it was interesting to watch. So maybe we get weird or we get lucky, but otherwise she'll just run shop for me.
Yeah, I don't see why she would leave Bellator, because they are open to letting her do other things. And I really think that's what's most important for Cyborg at this point. Things that are going to excite her, things that are going to motivate her, because quite frankly, she had a near flawless performance against Blencowe and dominated from pillar to post, aside from like that punch you mentioned earlier. I know there was a good left hook she got caught with. I think it was in the 3rd round.
A couple really good
just a
moments.
Just sparse moments. But I think that's more because I think Cyborg is getting into that John Jones territory where it's like, you're so much better than everyone in front of you. let's just try different things. Like it seemed to me that Cyborg was almost like challenging herself to only do one thing at a time. So she's going to go through this stretch of about 30 seconds where, okay, I'm going to only throw combination punches. Okay, now I'm going to take a Muay Thai stance. I'm going to go for the leg kicks. Okay, now let's see what I can do in the scramble. It was just more.
Let me try a suplex out for the first
Yeah,
time.
let me try a spin kick. Like that, like she's just
Dude.
doing things because she can do them.
Yeah.
And the suplex just made me think, why have you not been doing this for the last 15 years?
Oh my goodness.
Because in Arlene Blencowe, I mean, you can talk about what threat she poses, which ones she doesn't. In my opinion, Arlene Blencowe showed on Saturday how hard it is to do what Amanda Nunes did to Cris Cyborg.
Yes.
Because Blencowe did what you're supposed to do to beat Cris Cyborg, and it just doesn't fucking work if you're not Amanda Nunes and you're not like a stupidly hard hitter. But Arlene Blencowe is one of those aforementioned mythical real featherweights that I talked about a few minutes ago. Like, she can't make 135. She's an actual big-bodied, 5'6", 5'7", 150-pound woman, and Cyborg threw her like she was nothing. Like, tired, sweaty, rung up a few times. Cyborg just tossed her over her head like it was nothing. Why have you not been doing that for 15 years? Because you've been knocking everybody out, but still, just knowing that she has weapons in her arsenal and physical feats that she could perform anytime she wants and just hadn't done it yet. I mean, it's what you just talked about, Ant. She's almost at that John Jones thing where she appears to be just trying things for her own amusements, but I'm here for it too.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I just think you're getting into dangerous territory if you don't come in there totally motivated, because obviously Blencowe wasn't there to play games. But it's just so crazy how far advanced she is to where she wasn't even trying and she almost knocked her out. Really like floored her, and she wasn't really even trying very very hard. I'm kind of thinking, man, like the one thing I would really like to see is just simply not going to happen due to stubbornness as far as the UFC is concerned, because it would be lovely if Cyborg got picked up again by the UFC, fought Juliana Pena. You can keep Nunes busy with another fight just to get a W on her record again, and then have a rematch between the two. That would be the ideal situation. But if that's not going to happen, stay with Bellator, keep cashing those checks, and in the meantime, Scott Coker will let you take a boxing match. Scott Coker will, if they can put a PFL co-promoted event together, she certainly can be the head of that table. So it just being with Bellator just opens up options that the UFC is just not going to provide. Yeah. So anyway, I think Bellator is the right place to be. Just stay there. You can get the biggest checks with your sponsorships. You have they'll dig up somebody to keep fighting you. Put you on some main events. Then you still can have that ability to fight elsewhere. She wants to box. If she wants to do another Muay Thai fight, she'll have that option most likely. And then if they can finally put together that PFL co-promoted event, we're all here for it, and she will very likely be the head of that table. So I'm looking forward to that. She's where she belongs.
It's funny. I was just thinking that. I'm like, man, you remember when she went over and fought Irina Barsh in Lion Fight when Cyborg was an Invicta champion? That was awesome. I would love to see that fight again, or a fight like that. Bellator kickboxing didn't formally dissolve. I know that it's kind of in hiatus and international travel, and there's a whole bunch of stuff like that. Why not throw Cyborg over there to have a little fun? Yeah. I mean, if they're trying to build up challengers to have 1 or 2 wins in a row, let her go fight. Insert
Joe Schilling.
Yes.
Hey,
I was gonna say Kevin Ross, but yeah, let's do that too.
And if you don't, if say, because as much as people talk about her versus Kayla Harrison, that would be great, but I would actually love to see more so of mixed rules bout, like just a straight up kickboxing match between her and Clarissa Shields.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I mean, and with the little gloves, like that just sounds like a damn good time.
I'm more okay with that than you said that.
And I mean, Jay mentions the Irina Barsh fight. Especially at the time it happened, it was interesting to see Cyborg lose to somebody.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting to see Cris Cyborg get outstruck by someone. Be like, oh my goodness, like she is human mostly.
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't hurt her stock in MMA. It just
No.
made her go, wow, she is right there. Like
Yeah.
she I don't know for the scores, but she at least won a round.
Yeah, it was no,
she didn't get totally
It might have
washed.
been 48-47. It was a great fight.
Yeah.
Very competitive and exciting.
Yeah, so I'm all for that. Cyborg keeps on making us smile every time she fights, and makes a lot of people that fight her feel really, really bad the next morning.
And there's something that I thought of, and I'll be really, really brief here. There's kind of only one round in the chamber for when it comes to Cyborg Kayla Harrison, because unless we get a miracle of miracle and it's a wild and crazy battle, it's going to be a one-sided beatdown. It'll be Harrison throws Cyborg to the mat. Cyborg isn't able to get up after all, and she gets clubbed out, or Cyborg takes her on the feet. I mean, obviously there are more scenarios than that, but I feel like it will be a, well, we know the answer now kind of thing. I don't think it's going to be a situation where we go, well, that was Rose decking Joanna Jack HHX. We need to see that again. I think it would be a one and done kind of situation.
And I don't even think it'll be one and done with the possibility of Harrison winning that. Like that's just her getting clubbed. I mean, we'll very quickly see how inexperienced Harrison is at MMA and what level of competition she's used to fighting.
Yeah.
It will become very apparent if you ask me. All right, fellas. So Cyborg was not the only main event winner in Bellator, as they did do a double headliner in Hawaii. And Juliana Velasquez retained her title. Psych. She got absolutely pounded out, but was Liz Carmouche's stoppage correct? Was this a bad stoppage, guys?
It was on the quick side. It wasn't ghastly, but I was surprised. It came a couple seconds quicker than I would have expected, especially in a title fight. There's it shouldn't matter, but it does. The stakes of the fight matter. It's the whole idea that refs should kind of swallow the whistle in playoff games, a little bit. She's an undefeated fighter defending her title. Let her take those couple extra blows. Let's make absolutely sure. And things were not absolutely sure here. I'd say it was a little bit early.
Yeah, and especially when she's doing the physical things that are necessary to try to get out of that position. It's one thing if she's taking shots like think back to Roy Nelson versus Kimbo and Tough, where Roy Nelson's not doing any damage, Kimbo's just stuck, and okay, the fight's kind of stalling out, so you stop it because there's really no other logical thing that's going to happen.
TKO embarrassment.
Yeah, and he landed like 100 little ding,
he just kind of tapping his cheek. It wasn't that. It wasn't Rampage yelling get up. This is Velasquez actually bridging properly, trying to explode and get out of that position, and to stop it there leaves a lot to be desired to me. Jay, what do you say, man?
Can you rephrase the question to me?
How did I phrase it initially so I can know how to rephrase it?
You said, was it a bad stoppage?
Was it a bad stoppage, sir? Was it
other way around?
Was it a bad stoppage? Was it a good stoppage?
I had to. I am a little more on the egregious side, and it isn't because it's a title fight. It isn't just a let them play kind of situation. This was a bad stoppage for any fight, let alone a title fight, let alone an undefeated fighter, let alone at the end of the round, any of the main event, any of those situations, because the ref can't really take into account, well, she's undefeated, so I don't want to take that away. She's a champion, so I don't want to take that away. No, it was just an early stoppage period. I expected when Mike Beltran jumped in, Juliana Velasquez would sit up and we'd see like a Marvin Eastman on her head. That's what I anticipated. For him to so frantically jump in and stop the fight, I thought her eyes must have rolled back and we didn't see it, or something happened. No, none of that. There was no. I mean, obviously, when fighters get up and protest, sometimes fighters are knocked out in protest. There didn't. I think wasn't there a UFC knockout this weekend where somebody got smoked and then they're like, falling over the cage. I just remember that. Anyway, it didn't need to be that soon because of what the situation that was unfolding at the time. Like Carmouche had the crucifix, was dropping down elbows. Period. The end. but this wasn't a dominant position that was inescapable, and Velasquez was not intelligently defending herself. She was doing exactly the thing you need to do to get out of this predicament, and Mike Beltran intervened. And that's tough because I view Mike Beltran as a solid ref. I don't put him in the same vein as the Mazzagatti or other guy types. I don't view that. I think he's, he'll let them go. He's not just bleed Keith Peterson, which is probably my favorite ref right now, or the gold standard, who, by the way, is Jason Herzog, who I think he is the best ref in the business. This was a rough night for Beltran here, and I expect they're going to make it again. They're going to run it back. I mean, everybody wants to except for Carmouche, so that kind of sucks. That Carmouche isn't like, yeah, I get it. That I figured that. I don't know. Were you guys surprised at how she reacted? Like, I get it. You're the champion. You finally did it. All those kinds of things, and you're in the moment. But isn't there a part of you be like, yeah, I kind of.
Holy hell!
That was awesome.
Did you guys hear the thunder?
I felt that. I think it was somebody was mad about me disparaging Liz Carmouche. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see it again, and then I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm so firmly meh about it. Like, we know how the fight was going to go. Like, Velasquez was going to win it, and then that happened.
I mean, I'm curious if you guys will agree with friend of the show, Casey Leiden. Was this a girl stoppage? That stoppage where if these were men in this position?
Yes. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no.
Because that is so exactly the issue that I kind of jumped off the page. The kind of thing I wrote down, that Aspen Ladd almost won an appeal in CSAC for the stoppage of Duran Durandamy, when Herb Dean stopped that fight after basically one punch and kind of a follow-up grounded almost pound. And that's Casey, and shout out to Casey, who's been reffed by the same guy who's also reffing other big fights out there, Mr. Frank Trigg.
Yeah, undefeated mixed martial artist Casey Leiden. We got to put some respect on his name. Yeah, man, I just was not feeling this stoppage, like not when they're doing what they're supposed to do. Now, I don't think that Velasquez was going to necessarily get out of that position. I disagree with you, Jay, in that I think she was on her way to losing it in that sequence, but we got to let the sequence actually happen.
Maybe.
We'll never know, unfortunately, and that's really the problem. We will never know.
I don't disagree with you there that it could have gotten very much worse, but she only had 13 more seconds to work. Would she? I mean, that's the kind of question you ask. Would that situation have gone from bad to horrible in 13 seconds? Well, maybe, but we can't know.
Yeah, we don't know. I see it going bad, and with the elbows raining down, and if she was priming herself to explode right in that moment that it was stopped, and you don't, and that breath leaves out, and Carmouche knowing what's going on in that clock when they hear that 10-second warning, and then it's ground and pound central. So yeah, but unfortunately we'll never know. So
maybe Velasquez could have pulled the Derek Lewis. Just saying, you can bench press somebody off of you. I've seen it.
She just thought to herself, back to Rampage coaching on Tough, get up.
Or Tito, up.
All right, so let's keep things pushing here. We're finally going to get some UFC talk in. Amanda Lemos found herself the victim of the first standing arm triangle in UFC women's history. Jessica Andrade did the damn thing. An incredible fight for however long it lasted. Now, she did say she'd be willing to return to bantamweight, something that we just did not see coming. But 115, 125, 135, where do you want to see Jessica Andrade next? And who do you think she should be up against?
I think Jessica Andrade should stay at strawweight. She said she'd be willing to fight anywhere from 115 to 135. She did say that she thought her best weight class was 115. I agree with her. She still at 115 has only lost to other champs. There have been 5 champs in the history of the division. She's already fought 3 of the others, and while she's gone 1-3 against them, That's it. Everyone else, she's beaten them, and in most cases, she's made it look kind of easy. I think she should stay at strawweight, and frankly, I think she should have the next title shot. I think she should get the winner of Rose Namajunas versus Carla Esparza. We have, I mean, the other, I just mentioned there have been 5 champs in the history of the division. The other 4 are all fighting within the next 4 to 6 weeks. We have Zhang and Jędrzejczyk running back their all-time classic from early 2020. The problem with that fight is if Rose Namajunas defends on May 7th successfully, then Zhang and Jędrzejczyk, they're both 0-2 against Rose Namajunas. That's not a super appealing fight. Whereas Andrade is 1-1 against Namajunas, and there's 1 decision and 1 just complete spiking on the head, like death throw. And then Esparza and Andrade have never fought. So it's much more appealing to me to kind of slot in Andrade as the next title challenger to whoever comes out of Namajunas versus Esparza.
Man, if Esparza wins, that'll be a really weird round robin. Because Carla will have 2 wins over Rose. Rose will have 2 wins over the next 2 contenders in Zhang and Jędrzejczyk.
Yes, it's the rock, paper, scissors division.
Yeah.
It's really unique in that the 5 women who have held the UFC strawweight title are arguably the top 5 right now. Like they're all still at least close enough to their prime to, make no difference. And they're all just still right there. They've all been beating the crap out of each other. It is a really, really interesting division. And everyone else is kind of frozen out until some of them start falling off. Like, I can understand the need for a fresh face, but that would be the only reason you'd push a Marina Rodriguez ahead of any of these women right now.
Yeah, I mean, she lost to Carla Esparza, didn't she?
Yeah. Like,
so that
Joanna Jędrzejczyk is the one out of all those 5 where you could make the most convincing argument. Okay, maybe she's fallen off a little bit. Maybe she's out of her prime. Maybe her head's starting to be somewhere else. And I think she would absolutely piece up Marina Rodriguez.
I still want that fight.
I want it, but only for Rodriguez to earn a chance to get a title shot.
Well, maybe if Jędrzejczyk wins the 3-round rematch with Weili Zhang, because this is why we can't have nice things. It's okay, Diaz brothers. You can have a stupid 5-round fight, but the best fight we ever saw that year or in the next couple years, we're only getting 3 out of it. Yeah, let's do that because that makes sense. To have like the winner of Jędrzejczyk Zhang versus Marina Rodriguez, I'd be okay with that. This division, it is a great. It reminds me of like the great years of light heavyweight, when not only was it a round robin of the champion kept giving the belt to the next person, Rashad, Machida, Shogun, all of that kind of thing, but every former champion is right there. And John Jones, when he made his title defenses, just beat former champion after former champion in a row to be that name. And that was very exciting and impressive to see that. But there's one fight that I didn't think about, and I said it on Twitter, and I'm going to say it again. And it's not going to happen because The Ultimate Fighter is stupid, it's outdated, and it's starting next week. Because did you guys know that? Tough is back. Tough is back again. And Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena are coaching, which means they're going to have an automatic rematch. No, screw that. I want to see Jessica Andrade fight Amanda Nunes. I want that fight. That is chaos. That is mayhem. I could see how it would very easily go in Nunes' favor because she's bigger and stronger. But Andrade makes a living out of beating people that are bigger and stronger because she's 5'1" and a small tank with bricks for fists. So, and I don't know why I want it, but I really want that fight.
I don't know why either. I mean, it certainly wouldn't be light on entertainment value, but I mean, there's a reason why she dropped in weight.
Of course,
like she stalled out at Raquel Pennington,
Marion
Renault,
exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, this is she has a hard ceiling at 135 that we realize. Maybe in a world without Valentina Shevchenko, she would be flyweight champion. That's very conceivable, but Shevchenko ain't slowing down anytime soon, doesn't look like. So yeah, strawweight is the way to go. And that scenario that Ben laid out, just I couldn't say it any better.
It's a good one.
Yeah, but yeah, Nunes and Andrade it sounds fun, but I think it's one of those things where like you think you want it until it actually happens. And then we're like, oh, this ain't right. That just feels wrong to me. So I don't know, man. You're disturbed.
Hey, man, I still loved Condit versus Matt Brown for every minute of it was worth, even though it happened late and people were like, I don't think I like this anymore. I liked it very much.
Okay. Well,
so I'm that breed. I'm a just bleeder.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, fellas. Well, now let's I mean, we did mention one mixed martial artist that is a friend of the show. Now it's time to mention another one. That is Mike Jackson. Mike the Truth Jackson got a controversial DQ win over Dean Barry, and Dean Barry's long-awaited UFC debut. I mean, they were trying to put this fight together for like a year, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
This was first announced. So what do we think about here? Barry DQ'd for repeated low blows and an eye poke that finally forced the referee to call it. Afterward, he says that Mike took the easy way out in this fight. I think you guys know where I'm headed with this. So the floor is yours, gentlemen. Did Mike take the easy way out?
Okay. I'm glad you pointed out that they've been trying to put this fight together for almost a year, and they've been trying to put together specifically Barry versus Jackson this whole time. Like, plenty of people will, kind of laugh like, why is Mike Jackson in the UFC? Thing is, I consider Mike Jackson a friend, and he'll be the first one to tell you he doesn't belong in the UFC. Last time I talked to him, he called himself the glitch in the Matrix. Like, you see him and he doesn't belong, and that's how you know something's gone wrong. He's only in the UFC to put Dean Barry over.
Yep.
Goes in there, Barry's a 14-1, 15-1 favorite. If Mike Jackson took the easy way out, it's because your dumb fucking ass gave him the easy way out. You are a 15-1 favorite. All you need to do is literally anything other than commit a hat trick of egregious fouls. Like, how stupid are you? How fucking stupid are you? You will never have another fight that easy in the UFC. All you had to do was not kick this man in the nuts repeatedly and then dig your fucking finger up to the second knuckle in his eyeball. That's all you had to do. Took the easy way out. You dumb motherfucker.
Yeah, it's like there wouldn't be an easy way to take if you didn't provide it, genius. Like you talk about a ridiculous kick to the groin. I mean, spinning back kick or spinning side kick.
Flush as you can land it.
Flush to the groin, followed by him trying to rake his eyeballs out. Like he actually inserted his finger into the eye socket.
Yeah.
Like, yes, he should have taken the easy way out because it would have been really stupid to continue fighting at that point when half your paycheck's on the line and further punishment and further risk while you're handicapped. Sorry, it's mind-numbing how stupid Dean Barry's comments are.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't see. He was still ringing or burning. I think he said burning was the word that Mike Jackson used to describe the pain that he endured for 4 hours after the fight card. And Barry's like, oh, because he was talking, it wasn't that big of a deal. No, I've gotten groin shot before, and I'm on the ground going, oh, why you son of a. So it's not it's not out of the realm. It's not some kind of a front or kind of an acting. Are you kidding me? I dare you to get kicked like that. Who was it? I think it was Josh Barnett and Mondragon dos Santos, where Barnett landed a low blow, or it might have been Mighty Mo Seliga. Anyway, Barnett actually landed a low blow, and after the fight, he apologized and said, "Now you hit me there because I struck you illegally," and he did, and it was a kind of a bonding moment. There is.
I hope he didn't say that to Mondragon, dude. Holy shit!
it was something else.
Pause.
Yeah, no kidding. Barry took the easy way in, if you have to say anything like that, by really aggressively chasing the fight with Mike Jackson, a fighter who at the time was 0-1 with the no contest because his win over CM Punk was overturned because because Illinois popped it or overturned it for marijuana use. The dumbest. How do you double down on something like this? You're disqualified. You know how many eye gouge disqualifications that ever happened in the UFC? None to that point. There had never been a time where a referee assessed a foul that was so fight-ending by eye poke that it was disqualifying. Like, there had been eye pokes that had gotten point deductions. There have been eye pokes that have gotten 2-point deductions, but the fighter could continue to a degree and it carried on. There had never been an eye gouge. Like, let's be clear. This wasn't an eye poke. This is to the audience in the world. This was a gouge. This was a two-knuckler. We make the joke, but you can see the picture of the finger burrowing into the eye socket. This was digging for gold. So you can't do these things and then say, how do you blame the guy you fouled 3 times? Like, because he got away with because he landed the groin shot up close. Was it like a knee or something up close? And Jackson protested and they warned him. And then Tyone stopped it and walks over to Jackson and says, "I'm giving him a very hard warning." And Jackson's just like,
as he's writhing in pain, like I already told him once, but I'm gonna tell him again, and I really mean it this time. Like,
it's mind numbing that Barry, because Barry came out with the video. I've heard, I haven't seen this, I cannot confirm this, and I am not on Twitter right now to check, but apparently Dean Barry deleted his social media after that video came out because people were just destroying him. Be like, where do you think you are? Where do you think you are right now? What do you think just happened? Yeah. Did you see the thing you did? Did you see all the things you did? Here, look at this Getty image of you spin kicking this fighter in the groin so bad he lays on the ground for several minutes. You can see the finger in the eye. Did you see that? You see the thing you did? I'd be okay if Dean Barry doesn't fight again in the UFC.
Yeah, and one thing that I do think is kind of lost in a lot of this discussion, that we think that Dean Barry is the better fighter, and that's exactly what the UFC had planned. The odds makers saw that as well. Yeah. But he wasn't in control of that fight until the fouls took place.
Okay. He's a professional MMA fighter. He's done kickboxing. He's done kinds of things. I'm just a karate guy with black belt levels in Shotomaru and Shaolin Kempo. So he's above me in striking disciplines and accolades. Did you see how badly he was fighting?
The punches lunging,
he was throwing. I've seen better BKFC fights. I've seen better bar fights. I've seen better Shivarito, Guatemalan town boxing fights than the style and approach that Dean Barry was throwing.
I need Jerry versus Barry now.
I want Jerry versus
Dean Barry. Looked like the Island Boys in their little mitt work video that they put on Twitter today. Like, I mean, he was throwing those punches from the corner. It was like his hands were still getting wrapped in a locker room, and then he throws them out. It was absolutely nuts.
Like gauze.
And while he's doing that,
on the shoe.
I mean, Mike was very easily just sidestepping him, shoulder rolling, and check hooking. And then the shots that did land until the fouls, he rolled off like when they actually touched his chin, he was going with the momentum. So like, even though we can say that Dean Barry is most likely the better fighter, and that, I'm sure if they rematch, it probably will be apparent as long as Barry didn't do anything stupid again. We have video evidence that says otherwise for the first few minutes of that fight. So this was something that literally altered how the fight was playing out.
Oh yeah.
So if this isn't a case for a DQ and isn't a case for slapping someone on the forehead with the stamp of stupid for Dean Barry, then I don't know what is. This was pretty cut and dry to me.
And Mike Jackson has a win in the UFC, and he will never. Please don't pop for weed, so I don't have to take this back. He'll never lose that.
Yes, please.
Well, popping for weed in Nevada is no longer a problem.
That's right. Oh. Well, unless he smoked ahead of time because the threshold's so high. But yes, that's right.
Yeah, I hope he's high right now, and I hope a young lady has helped soothe his foul.
I'm quite certain that he's high right now.
Yeah.
I looked on Getty after the fight to see the victorious picture, because the UFC always takes the pictures afterwards, the flags and the team and whatever. And you can see, I mean, obviously he's got a not very happy face on, but you can see how jacked up his eye is in all of the official UFC photos from the eye gouge. So Dean Barry, come on, man.
Hey, but he talked, so it didn't really hurt. He talked.
Jesus.
Yeah. What a bozo. All right. let's keep things pushing here. We have quick hits. We got 30 seconds on the clock to answer a few questions here. So, Ben, I'm going to start with you, and we're going to take things back to Bellator. Two semifinalists are locked in with Stots and Patrick Mix winning at 279. Has your opinion changed on who you think is going to win the bantamweight tournament?
Not really, because I thought it would be one of these two guys, and I still think it's going to be one of these two guys. And both looked very impressive on Saturday. I would say especially Mix, but both of them looked impressive. Like, Mix is one of those guys who he's a very good wrestler, obviously, an accoladed wrestler, but he's one of those wrestlers who has just taken to grappling like a fish to water. And it reminds you of someone like early Chris Weidman or early Ben Askren.
All right.
I was really hoping he would just say it reminds us like, and then stop, and I'd be like,
And just stop like,
who does it remind you of?
I'll cut it out in post.
Respect.
They'll
the
never
clock.
know.
All right, Jay, you're up next.
Yeah.
We're going to stick with Bellator. Did Justine Kish's win over Ilima-Lei Macfarlane show that Kish is really good, or that Macfarlane has declined?
A very brief peek behind the curtain. I'm part of the Sherdog rankings panel, and I believe that the win for Kish was so damaging to Ilima-Lei Macfarlane's cause that I removed her from the flyweight rankings altogether, because Justine Kish was barely a 500 fighter on a long losing streak, and it made me question whether Macfarlane's really going to be in this for the long haul anymore.
Oh, that is a hell of an answer there, and good respect for the clock as well. All right, so Jay, for the purposes of me not sounding like a complete lunatic,
I will ask you a question.
Yes, please ask me a question.
Excuse me, let me ask you a question. Clay Guida, he lost by knee bar, and it was too bad for people that were rooting for Clay Guida, but he concluded his UFC contract while going 2-4 in his last 6. Will Clay Guida at 40 years old be re-signed, or is he Bellator bound or worse?
I think the real question is how much money is Clay Guida willing to fight for? That's going to be the determining factor. I would be very surprised if the UFC did not extend an offer to him to keep him on the roster, provided that he wasn't looking for some sort of pay raise or even willing to take a pay cut. But at his age, man, with so little time left in the fight world, cash out. Bellator BKFC.
I'm going to respectfully disrespect the clock and disrespect your answer, because the correct answer is Clay Guida goes to Eagle FC and fights Diego Sanchez again.
Oh my God, I thought about that earlier today, and I should have wrote it down in my notes. You're right. I was wrong. You, sir, are superior to me in every way except for looks,
I'll take
intelligence.
That one. Oh, I needed that boost today.
All right, fellas. So let me go ahead and change the clock. Okay, there we go. Now I got the right clock. So we are going to give each other time to ask this one question, and I'm going to start with you, Jay, since you are very, very deeply and personally affected by this. Bellator put on post limbs for the first time since 2020. Sir, how did you feel?
Angry. There was no reason for Bellator to do what they did, to schedule it poorly, to start prelims, to have 2 hours to run through all these prelims. Post limbs shouldn't be a thing. I covered them for Sherdog because I'm a good fella. It also meant that my coverage time was 14 hours that day. I hate you, Bellator, right now. Come back to me in 2 weeks.
All right. Ben, same question. How did the post limbs of Bellator make you feel?
They made me feel great, because I'm not as good a person as Jay. I was on Sherdog play-by-play coverage for Bellator 279, and after the main event, I closed my browser tab and started playing video games. I refused to cover the post limbs. Jay was nice enough to put in the live results, but the Sherdog play-by-play stops with the main event. And sorry for those other 3 fights.
All right.
Sumiko Inaba, watch out for her. She's got some hands.
I will watch out for her. They should have her fight before the
when
main
she's
card
on
next
a
time.
regular normal hour.
All right, so I'll go ahead and start the clock after I reread the question. How did the Bellator post-lims make me feel? I can't say I felt a thing because I didn't watch anything live this weekend. I watched it all this morning. Actually, I just watched a whole glob of fights to start my day, and post-lims weren't on the menu because I don't care. I don't think I'll ever care about post-lims. I've been covering a Bellator fight in person multiple times, and there have been post-lims, and I said, no, I don't care. I'm going back to the media room. No, like, no. Post-lims.
Oh, post-lims.
Good God. All right. Well, let's keep things moving, gentlemen. Tyson Fury knocked out Dillian Whyte, and afterward retired from the sport of boxing. Something he has said before, by the way, too. But Francis Ngannou joined him in the ring, where they both promised to put a fight together between the two. How likely is that to happen, fellas?
I am too jaded from MMA coverage for so long and retirements that don't stick for me to at all believe that Tyson Fury is done fighting. However, I will give a big, very large caveat. He retired and said, I'm done fighting. He didn't say boxing. I believe the word was fighting. And then 4 minutes later said he wanted to fight Francis Ngannou. That is how long the retirement actually lasted. Is that I'm done. Now I want to go fight this giant behemoth. Let me ask him about his genitals. Let's talk about that later. Just Tyson Fury is going to do whatever he darn well pleases. He's 33. He should keep fighting. I don't know if the UFC is going to let Francis Ngannou do it, but I believe Francis Ngannou said on, I think it was the MMA Hour, a recent interview saying that since this fight, saying that I am not going to sign a contract with the UFC unless they allow me to box. So buckle up, boyos.
Yeah. I mean, this is I think Fury saying he's done fighting, and then 4 minutes later saying like, yeah, I'm gonna fight Francis Ngannou, means he doesn't feel that this is a real challenge. That's all this means. This is a cash grab, and that's fine. That is totally fine. I do think with Ngannou, you know, seemingly willing to wait out his contract, and on top of that, he's still recovering from his ACL surgery. Like he's got the time to let this contract expire, and then when that happens, yeah, this is a strong possibility. I'm certain that Tyson Fury, no matter what state of retirement he believes himself to be in, would jump off of his couch and take perhaps the easiest money that could ever come across his bank account, the easiest money he could ever have. He definitely turned down the idea, at least now, of the Usyk and Joshua Winter, because you're talking about real boxers. You're talking about real challenges in the sport that he knows. And we know, despite his claims that he will fight Francis in a mixed rules bout, it's not going to be full on mixed martial arts.
No.
That's not happening. So what are we talking about here?
Does this have a Floyd versus Conor feel to you, where Floyd didn't really want to risk things with the next generation of up-and-coming top boxers, but was more than happy to take a check from McGregor?
Absolutely. Exactly. Because you see a new group of suckers to swindle. And I shouldn't say that about Tyson Fury necessarily for his previous career, because he has taken on all challengers and all comers, and he took some rough fights and came out the victor. So I don't want to disparage his legacy as a boxer, but there was certainly a point in time with Mayweather where it was like, okay, he's so far ahead of everyone that, okay, what are we even watching? This isn't even fun anymore. And then when boxing fans stop paying for the pay-per-views as much, like look at the numbers on the Berto fight compared to some of the others that Mayweather's had over the years. And then he says, okay, well, boxing fans ain't really buying this anymore, but look at those suckers over there.
Yeah.
that are sitting there fighting their underwear with them tiny gloves. Those suckers, yeah, they're ripe.
And this one guy has like legions of fans who think he can beat anybody.
Yeah, exactly. So Fury is following the blueprint. He sees that, okay, there's money to be made from a new group of suckers. Let me open my wallet and see how much they throw at me. That's exactly what's happening right now.
And I can't even come close. Like, when I saw the Mayweather-McGregor news, first of all, I was working at Vice at the time, and I told my editor, "This is never going to happen. The fight's never going to happen." Obviously, I ate my words and crow and all of the things later, but it just seemed too ludicrous it didn't make sense and all these things. And then I saw it, and then I realized it makes 100% of the sense. It makes all of the sense in the world. And in the case of Tyson Fury, it makes even more sense because McGregor-Mayweather was an actual professional boxing match. Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou, I believe like the 7th and 8th words that Fury said were mixed rules, which means this is not going to impact his professional boxing career in any way. So why the heck not? Oh my gosh, I'm surprised that more top fighters don't try and pull this. I guess there's a popularity kind of piece to it, but this makes every penny of sense, and I'll probably watch it on the internet. I mean, through pay-per-view, to see what happens.
Well, pay-per-view's on the internet, so
yes, that's correct.
And there's a certain amount of needing the right foil. This only works for Fury because there is an Ngannou who is like sufficiently frightening that you can sell it with a certain amount of interest.
Hey man, you couldn't sell Tyson Fury, Tim Sylvia back when they look eye to eye at each other.
Probably, like, but see,
actually,
you probably
they have the same
couldn't.
body type.
Yes, so, they do.
But honestly, you probably couldn't. And if there were no Ngannou, you couldn't sell Fury versus Stipe Miocic. It just who'd buy it.
Yeah. So this is him doing what he's supposed to do, trying to make more money in the easiest way possible. And Francis Ngannou may not be the easiest way to make the money, but it will be a whole lot of money, much more than he would ever see from the UFC if this were to take place in this current iteration. And even still, the mixed rules thing could just be a ploy to get to the negotiating table.
Maybe
Mayweather used the same thing. Mayweather teased, that he would fight in MMA, and that dumb video with him walking into the cage and people started creaming their pants. This is a tried and true method to get to the negotiating table, and then you can dictate the terms from there. So it is more likely than I think we'd like to acknowledge. So there's that.
At least we didn't get a Kinahan shout out.
Yeah, he's smart enough to not, broadcast that on the fight broadcast itself. I guess he just leaves it to social media and public record. But anyway, let's keep things pushing here to the greatest title segment in all of media history. I'm Not Surprised, Mr. Falcons, where we share something that surprised us or ironically did not over the course of the past week. Ben, I'm going to start with you. What is your I'm Not Surprised, Mr. Falcons moment this week?
Well, hot off the...
Oops, sorry. Wrong button.
Like, damn. Do I have a limited time to say this? Hot off the digital presses as of Monday afternoon when we're recording this, former UFC heavyweight contender, former IFL heavyweight contender Ben Rothwell announced that he has signed with Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. He says that his contract is at least 6 figures per fight, and if he wins his first 3 fights, he stands to make over $1 million. I have no reason to disbelieve him there, but I actually am a bit surprised that he is doing this. He should do fine, even though his boxing was never particularly the best part of his MMA game. He is a gigantic heavyweight. He is a pretty surprisingly athletic and coordinated guy for his size, and can defend himself on the feet, and his chin is not completely shot. So he actually will probably do fine in the absolute dog shit heavyweight division of bare knuckle boxing. I mean, what's he going to do? He's going to fight Joey Beltran.
Yeah.
Joey Beltran just got his chin checked this week. Oh my goodness. Watch that gif. Anyway, sorry to step on you.
But he's probably going to do fine. But I am genuinely a bit surprised to see him do this. But you know what? He's 41 now. If he can extend his earning power as a martial arts competitor by a year or so and make 6 figures or even 7 figures, who am I to tell him no? I don't have to watch it. So, congratulations to him in advance, and I am slightly surprised.
Yeah, I mean, the alternative would be taking the Arlovsky route and just fighting whatever fresh heavyweight face the UFC has to offer on,
Which I don't think he can replicate that.
Yeah,
He doesn't have
too.
Arlovsky's survivability. If he ran through the gauntlet that Arlovsky has had over his last 5 or 6 fights, not including each other, since obviously they fought just a couple years ago, I think Rothwell goes like 1-5 against them, and the results aren't terribly enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, agreed.
And he doesn't really have the appeal to jump over to an Eagle. Like, he's just a name to them. Like, to me, as an IFL guy with IFL apparel over there in a shelf somewhere, it's different. But Rothwell, man, maybe we could fight like Gabriel Gonzaga. I think he's over in BKFC right now. Maybe we could fight the Iranian Hulk. I think he's doing that. But probably not.
I mean, all of it's so silly, but he'll make more money. So, yeah, it's so silly.
Iranian Hulk, 370 pounds of steroids and synthol.
Just all synthol, baby.
So disgusting.
Like if you hit the synthol inflated muscles, and would they like burst and synthol would come leaking out?
In theory, yes.
Just a random thought.
There are examples of
human breast
implant.
Like,
can you imagine just like a body kick or like a head kick gets blocked and then the shin hits the arm and things just start exploding. There was
one of those synthol weightlifters that fought over in Russia. I think it wasn't hardcore, but it was one of those pop-up MMA organizations to have like a freak fight show. And he fought that guy named Oleg from Mongolia, and Oleg Mongol, I think is his given name. And this guy, after like 2.5 minutes, his arms were so heavy he couldn't hold them up to fight this guy because of the synthol in his muscles. And Oleg pounded them out. It was glorious.
So the guy's name was Oleg Mongol.
I think it's Oleg Mongol. I will be more than happy to provide a link that we can show the fans.
So it's like his name.
Glorious.
His name is partly where he's from. It's like,
well, it's like Oleg Pereshnikov or
Anthony
something
Maryland.
like that.
But see, if you do that with America, you just sound like a porn star.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Ben, Texas, and Aunt Maryland.
There is a new career out there for him, actually. Yeah, I've been trying to get my wife to start an OnlyFans page with me. I'll keep you guys updated on the progress of those negotiations. So Jay, I'm going to put the clock on for you as requested. What is your I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons moment this week?
We are going to Asia because the UFC is going to Asia for UFC 275 in Singapore, because obviously they're trying to stake a claim on the 13 trillion viewers that One Championship steals every year. And the UFC will be bringing back Road to UFC, which is a series of qualifying tournaments, 8-man tournaments in flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight, and lightweight, that these challengers will work their way up, and the winners of every weight class gets a UFC contract. We're doing tournaments again, baby. And the fighters involved, we'll see if they're UFC level. There are some former UFC fighters. I think Luigi Beren is one of the competitors who's going to be on it. You remember him, bantamweight, washed out of the UFC. So we're looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of it, at least, and how the UFC brings it out. And right before the bell, it's going to be on Fight Pass, not ESPN Plus. You actually have a reason to use Fight Pass for UFC content.
And I'm so excited because my TV actually has the Fight Pass app.
Yeah.
So, I can actually watch Fight Pass on the TV without
It's gonna be violent as heck. I know that much.
Yeah. All right, cool. So I'm game. All right, so my Mr. Falcons moment comes courtesy of Brian Stan, who appeared on the MMA Hour earlier today, Monday as we're recording. And he gave some good advice to fighters now. And, this is a guy who was retired in 2013 after a nice career in the UFC, also held the WEC light heavyweight title before the organizations merged. He was a color commentator and just fantastic in the position up until 2017, where he left to, I believe, to help run some investment firm in addition to a military charity, I believe it was.
Yeah, it was a real estate development.
For veterans.
Yeah, for veterans.
Like they provide housing for veterans.
Yeah, yeah. So he's so Brian Stann, successful in and out of the cage, and I'm surprised. Well, I should say I'm not surprised that this man is still a voice of reason. On his interview with the MMA Hour, he gave 4 tips to up and coming fighters. 1, save your money. 2, don't leave your career in the gym by sparring too hard. What was another one? He said, have a hobby and something that can turn into a career later on, and also be very careful with managing your brand.
Man,
all
great wisdom pieces for young fighters.
All excellent advice, and I'm not surprised that he's still, a wise, intelligent, thoughtful person as far as his ability to communicate succinct and sound advice. But I am surprised that a man who's been away from the sport, like officially away from the sport for 5 years, is still the only voice of reason. Wow, we need to do better, because this guy ain't been around for a minute. He's been retired for 9 years now, and away from the mic for 5, and this is still the most intelligent thing that's being said in the sport. We got to do better.
We need more Brian Stanns in the sport.
We got to do better. The Brian Stanns of the sport, they leave to do better things. So that's kind of the moral of the story, I guess. Wow. So great advice. And anyone who is looking to mixed martial arts as a real career, pay attention. Pay close attention to his words. All right. So Thursday, PFL season continues. We have the featherweights and heavyweights on deck. Quickly, gentlemen, who are dark horses that you're looking for at featherweight and heavyweight here?
It feels weird to call him a dark horse, but Lance Palmer didn't win the thing at featherweight last season. And anytime he shows up there, I'm going to favor him to win. He's got a style that is built to win PFL checks. I hate to use such a derogatory sounding term, but he is a lay and pray artist. He has a very good takedown game, and he's very good at maintaining top position and doing enough not to get stood back up once they're there. He tries to advance position and lands enough strikes on the ground not to get stood up, but doesn't really threaten to finish the fight either with strikes or submissions. He's going to be my favorite or close to it every time out. I loved that Chris Wade did so well last season, but he's the opposite. He looks kind of wrestly, to use a term that I've thrown around a few times before, but he's not. He's like a hyper aggressive guy with some defensive holes and prone to getting out wrestled. So I don't favor him to repeat. But yeah, like, give me Lance Palmer to probably win it, and my dark horse would probably be someone like Brendan Loughnane or Shaman Moraes. And I sent you guys an image of what I think every time I hear Shaman Moraes' name.
It's so weird how inexperienced Shaman Moraes is, given how long we feel like he's been around the sport.
Huh? Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that goes all the way back to the WSOF days.
Yeah.
Like, he fought Marlon Moraes.
And he's only got he doesn't even have 20 fights. That's what I mean. It just feels like he's been around forever for his little.
He still looks like he's 15.
I mean, when you look at the featherweight division, it is one that it will be ruled by the grappler this year, and that's too bad for entertainment purposes. I don't ever root for or against fighters if I can personally help it, but I have a vested interest to root against Lance Palmer. Let me finish. Not because I dislike him personally, because his dad's hilarious and whatever. No. It's because of his style, his approach, the way he fights. He is exactly what he portends himself to be in the cage. And that's not thrilling, and it's agonizing to watch and cover it. And as somebody who will be running the Short Dog play-by-plays, I do not look forward to 5x5 fights where he kind of gets down Brendan Loughnane and kind of holds him down, and then he pops back up and he hits a mat return, and then he scrambles to his knees, and then he drags him back down, and that's the fight for 25 minutes. You look at guys like Kyle Bochniak, you look at guys like Boston Salmon, you can see them being tossed around like that. You can see Palmer doing exactly what he does. So I love the idea of Palmer fighting Chris Wade this week. Like that is exactly the kind of fight that I want to see PFL matchmaking do. It's a new fight. It's two guys who are contenders to possibly win it all. Let's start the season off strong instead of building brackets around them like that. So I do, for this one current iteration, applaud the PFL matchmaking for, what is it, broken clocking their way through matchmaking this year, because even they're right every now and then. But watch out for Bubba Jenkins. He's my dark horse. If he can out wrestle Lance Palmer, anything can happen.
Yeah, a good analysis there, gentlemen. I'm probably gonna go with Brendan Loughnane as my dark horse, although considering the level of attention he receives, kind of difficult to use that term, freely with him. Bubba Jenkins also stands out to me as well, but I think Jay, I think you're spot on as far as pointing out the matchmaking as this tournament begins, because you think Kyle Bochniak and Bubba Jenkins could be a pretty exciting fight. Like that could be kind of crazy. Wade and Palmer has implications for later, most likely, if things play out the way we're kind of envisioning.
Yeah.
So we're getting, even if the final ends up being Palmer versus Wade, and we've seen that fight before, like, man, what a great way to set up the fight by having a sample of it before and having this distance between them as far as other fights they've had to take. And have they been able to make improvements? Are they completely healthy? Like, there's so many other factors that play into potential rematches, or just some of these more interesting pairings right now if they come back around. So I'm spot on with that, man. That was that great analysis there.
And can they do that for 5 rounds?
Exactly. Like, yeah. And then without the point system, without worrying about
Exactly.
going into the next round,
Yep.
and
Right.
they introduced elbows too at the finals, correct?
I'm not sure. I've seen elbows this season. I've
Okay.
actually, I don't think they're legal, but I know they are. Actually, hold on a second. I looked at the PFL rules this year. They have a specific section that just says no elbows. But I have seen on multiple occasions this season so far elbows being landed. Jeremy Stevens hit a spinning back elbow on Clay Collard, or the other way around, clear as a bell. I think it was Stevens hit the elbow.
Just gotta love those unified rules. So anyway, so I'm pretty excited for seeing what featherweight has to offer. Historically one of the more entertaining divisions in all of the sport. Heavyweight, what are you guys thinking, man?
As much as I'd like to pick someone other than like Bruno Capoloza to repeat, he's beaten all the other top guys they already had, and he's already beaten like the top free agents they've signed. Like Clidson Abreu was joining out of the UFC, but Capoloza whipped him in Jungle Fight. And I'm okay with that, because at least it's not, well, again, it's not just like a Lance Palmer who's probably going to be favored to lock all this down with some miserable fights. Like, Capoloza's been breaking people off. He's kind of a smallish, athletic heavyweight with power and well-rounded. So I actually look forward to the heavyweight season here. If anything, I wish like Ben Rothwell had gotten in on this, but if anything, probably we'll see a repeat of last year. Ante Dalia, is probably going to be your runner-up. If anybody makes a splash, like Hernan Ferreira is huge and has the ace in the hole of good grappling and willingness to cheat like a motherfucker. So, like maybe he'll pull a foreign object out of his shorts and like hit somebody when the ref's not looking. So he'll be my dark horse.
I picture him reaching into the ribbing of his pants and pulling out a thing and crushing it up and going.
Yeah. Or, like he watched Dean Barry versus Mike Jackson and he's doing like the Mr. Burns, like, like this.
It's so odd to me that the PFL heavyweight division isn't quite as simple as heavyweights usually are, in that one of them is going to walk up and bonk the other on the head and they're going to fall down. Like, this isn't quite the layout that they have. Like, Adam Koresh, I mean, he's still very, very unknown. He's like, what, 5-0 or something like that. But it isn't just kind of the walk you down and club you in the face and it's all over kind of situation. I like that there's a varied group of fighters, but at the same time, you can look at this lineup and go, wow, there are 10 of them, and 6 of them you can pretty much eliminate from the playoffs right now. Just knowing how they have fought. Like, I respect Jamel Jones. I like him a lot. But, you know, who is he fighting in this first week? I think he's fighting Henan Faher. So that stinks. That means if he even somehow manages to drag the fight down, I don't think that's what he wants to do. He'll wind up in a triangle or something like that. I mean, I feel for the guy. I feel for, this is the matchmaking where you go, oh, okay, here's the other side of the matchmaking. When you look at Ante Delisha and go and Mateus Scheffel, which, okay, fine. I think he fought for, like, what did he fight for? Was it I Love MMA or Future or one of those guys like that, from Brazil to Europe kind of situations. Yeah, I'm going to go. My dark horse is Denis Skoltsov. I'm going to say that he won't run into the Ali Azayev and gas out so painfully and just fade at the end of the third round. And hope that they don't match him up against Ante again, to say that the Russian, but they're going to introduce him as an international fighter, like they did for Armari Akhmedov, the international flag. So international, there you go.
We're not going to say the R word, are we?
Not going to say the R word.
No, we are not. I'm with you guys as far as who I think is going to win. I think it's going to be a repeat, but I am kind of intrigued by the presence of Israeli prospect Adam Koresh. He is by far the least experienced person in the tournament, but his results so far undefeated, and against guys that have had a reasonable amount of fights under their belt. We could be seeing something here. I could be completely off. I don't know necessarily a whole lot about him. I haven't watched all of his fights, but I'm intrigued. So I think he might be a face to watch. There's a reason why he's there, with so few fights compared to everyone else in the bracket. So something to keep your eye on there.
I mean, the way he punted Baby Fedor in Bellator,
exactly.
That was he got his leg up fast and high. I did not see that coming when he did that.
Yeah, and that's pretty much all I've seen from him, but that was pretty damn impressive, and I want to see more. So, let's do it. Okay, UFC on ESPN 35, aka UFC Vegas 53. We're just getting outrageous with all the numbers and all the different platforms for the UFC. But anyway, Rob Font and Marlon Vera in a surefire action fight will main event. Aside from that, it's very difficult to not be excited about that fight. Do you feel like this card is all filler? And that's probably a question I should ask every week.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I do previews of every UFC card for Sherdog Radio. So, I tend to do a pretty deep dive on them, prelims included, all these debuting fighters included. And there are a couple of questions I ask just to sort of gauge the overall strength of the card in a subjective, if not objective way. Well, I mean, the objective way is how many ranked fighters are on this card? How many fighters on this card are over 500 in the UFC, especially on the undercard, where they will often stick people that are, had like a losing debut or are on the verge of being cut. Here's my new question that I've been asking for a month or two. Assuming they win, who on this card is closest to a title shot in their respective division? Just give me subjective but direct and immediate divisional consequences. And for me, the fighter on this card who is closest to a title shot with a win isn't even on the main card. It's probably Alexander Romanov.
That's exactly who I was going to say.
Like, that's saying something. Yeah, Font versus Vera is a likely action fight, but neither of those guys is within 2 wins of a title shot, and Alexander Romanov probably is. Like, yeah, this is just another card. And you can say, hey, fights are better than no fights. We might get some action. We might get some, some exciting finishes or highlights, but it takes more than that to hold my attention. If all I wanted to see was a bunch of knockouts, I'd go to World Star. Every fight ends in a knockout within 90 seconds, and sometimes the cops show up. Like, if there are no stakes, if we're not trying to figure out who the best fighter in the world is, then, yeah, just go to break.com. And there are some UFC cards these days that might as well be World Star. They're like, no ranked fighters on them. Half the fighters are below 500 in the UFC. Like, 6 losing fighters might get cut. This is one of those cards. Just another card.
Agreed.
And there are 24 fighters on this fight card, and yet my first thoughts are just by the way, this is a UFC on ESPN card. I know I harp on that every few iterations, but that used to mean something. Like the UFC on Fox cards, they used to kind of stack those. I mean, I say used to because then that kind of fell too. It used to mean something to have the network significance of putting this fight card in the ESPN. Now, I think this is on ESPN, while Blachowicz Rakic is ESPN2. I think that's the situation.
Yeah,
which
this is real flagship.
This is big ESPN. And you look at this fight card, and look, man, I can't sit here and in good conscience go, man, these are some great matchups. Darren Elkins versus Tristan Connolly. Okay, what do we gain from it? What do we glean from it? What do we get from when Andrei Arlovski outboxes Jake Collier for 3 rounds? What happens when Natan Levy bounces back from his first loss against who? Mike Breeden, I think. The guy that came out of LFA and was it like Fighting Alliance in Missouri? So he's okay. Now what? Gina Mazzani, Shanna Young. Okay, all right. That's an LFA fight. And it's weird to me how this is just there. Like, this is it. Plop. Like, one of the more interesting fights on the card to me, and as Duffy said, the closest person to a title shot accidentally wound up on this fight card because it was canceled last week due to a medical issue for Chase Sherman. So this is a pure situation where you go, okay, and Font versus Vera is fire. Yes. But then Andrei Arlovski is right before that. Andrei Arlovski 5.0. So yeah, put this in the outside garbage. I love you, Andrei Arlovski. You're going to do this you're going to do this longer than I'm in the sport, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm picking up what you guys are putting down. This is particularly weird for me because, of course, we've got a huge pay-per-view coming up, the weekend after next, and typically we get that filler card, and then but we might be able to pick a couple of gems out, and then we say, okay, man, if they just didn't do a show this week and you put these 4 fights on that prelim card and you shuffle things around a little bit more, like, man, you would have such a banger of a pay-per-view. I'm looking at this fight card and I see nothing that I want to throw on anything else. I'm seeing nothing that like the Tristan Connolly and Darren Elkins saying, yeah, sure, someone's going to leak a lot of blood. It's probably going to be kind of silly.
We know who's going to leak a lot of blood.
Yeah, so we know like Elkins is going to lose half his plasma on the cage. And that might be entertaining, but I'm good without that being on the pay-per-view. There's no fight on the pay-per-view card that I'm willing to sacrifice to put that in its place. And that says a lot. That this fight card feels like contractual obligations for half of the competitors, at least. Like, okay, we got to offer this guy a fight, or this guy was injured 6 months ago. All right, let's offer him a fight. This is all that's going on right now, and hard pass.
I mean, the card opener is that Japanese cat Taira versus Carlos Candelario, who was the Stephan Bonner of Dana White's Contender Series, who fought that just firefight with Victor Altamirano and then lost, and Dana's like, I want both of you. And that's okay, cool. That's fun, but Duffy is so right. It needs more than okay, that's fun for me to feel comfortable committing 7 hours to cover it.
Yeah, this is one of those fight cards where I'm like, I'm happy I'm on the outskirts of media because I ain't sitting down watching this live. It's not happening. And if I do, it's because I have literally nothing else to do, and I've got a lot of other things to do. So I'm going to do those other things.
Well, Joe Riggs is fighting on that same time in BKFC.
Oh, I know what I'm doing.
If I didn't have fight night responsibilities, regarding this card, if I didn't have to talk about it immediately afterwards, write articles about it, it'd be a background noise card. I'd have it going on the TV while I'm like playing video games or cooking or cleaning the house or whatever.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna make beats. Like that's probably what I'm gonna do while this is going on. So, but anyway, that's gonna do it for this edition of Unleashed. Big thanks to Jay and Ben, as always, holding it down and keeping the conversation flowing. You can check out their work, including Fight Night coverage, on SureDog.com. So be on the lookout for that. Like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend, tell that friend to tell. Like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend, tell that friend to tell 10 more friends. Stay beautiful, stay positive, and stay sexy. We'll see you next week. Peace.